On this episode of Sports Opinions Podcast, Yes Network's Chris Shearn joins the show as we talk a little bit about Brooklyn Nets and Knicks, some Yankees and Mets, and some Jets and Giants. And without any further ado, enjoy the show. What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Alex Cuesta, and with me today is a guy that I have watched for a really long time. I've been a Nets fan basically my whole life. When I knew what sports were, I picked the Nets. I'm from Jersey, and the Yes Network came along, and that's where the New Jersey Nets at the time, went to play. And right along with the Yes Network came this guy, and I've been watching him on the Nets pre-halftime and post-games for the better part of my life and the better part of my sports enjoying life is Yes Network's Chris Shearn. Thank you so much for coming on, Chris. What's going on, man?
Alex, thank you for that intro. But a couple things. Well, first and foremost, thank God you picked the Nets.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, if you've been watching me for almost all of your life, that means I'm pretty old, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
It means you've had a positive influence because I haven't left the Nets, even through all of the turmoil. There's been plenty of opportunities to leave.
Well, I think Ian Eagle has a lot to do with that too.
Just the Yes crew, all of you guys are getting more recognition now because of just, everyone's noticing since the Darren Williams era and all that, there's been more spotlight. And people are finally starting to listen more and watch more over the last decade. And I think they're realizing that we have the best crew top to bottom as viewing fans. And then any team in the league in terms of pre-halftime, post, in-game, everything. The Nets have it covered the best.
I truly believe that too. And that's just not because I work with these people. And there's something you have to know about all the people that I work with. Ryan Rucco, Ian Eagle, Sarah Kustok, Jim Spinarkle, Frank Isola, Richard Jefferson. They're not just great on camera and great at what they do. They're great people. I recently lost my dad, and the first
I'm so sorry to hear, Chris.
Thank you. The first people who reached out were the people on my Nets team, the people I just mentioned. And Richard Jefferson, the day after my dad's funeral, I was on the schedule, and Yes was very, very cool, and they said I could take as much time as I wanted. And I know it sounds corny and hokey, but my dad would have wanted me in studio. He thought I should be getting more dates, but that's another story for another podcast.
Sometimes the best thing with those tragedies is just that your family members would want normalcy. That would be what they would want most.
And he would want my rear end in that studio seat. And I noticed on the schedule I was paired with Richard, and Richard lost his father last year. So we sat, watched the game, and all we did was talk about our dads the entire time. And it was very cathartic to me to be able to, the day after my father's funeral, be able to sit there with someone who just recently went through it. And Richard is, all I could say about the entire team I work with is that they are beautiful human beings. There's just no other way to describe it. You feel like you belong. You feel like you're wanted. And when stuff hits the fan, they're right there to pick you back up and dust you off. So I have nothing but positive things to say, just to trumpet what you were bringing up with everybody on the air. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond, the greatness. It goes behind the scenes and how they are as human beings as well.
Yeah, it definitely seems organic. Everything that goes on in the whole entire production, when it comes down to them joking around during the game, or even you guys in studio, messing around with each other, it never seems forced, and it all seems organic, which just makes it a much better viewing experience.
Yeah, that's the great thing. I'll be honest with you. I'm still trying to figure Isola out. I've only worked with him like 2 or 3 times.
Frank,
But
I
as
like
far
Frank
as
Isola. There's some takes that he has, and I'm just like, what is that? But you know what, though? That comes with the territory of being a journalist and
yeah,
putting your opinions out there. That's
yeah,
one of the
of
most difficult
course.
things to do.
It's part of your job. I mean, it's what he does. I like him. Don't get me wrong. I just, as a host, and I've learned this from Bob Lorenz more times than not. You're pretty much, you're the quarterback. And
Mm-hmm.
one of my producers told me a long time ago, when you're in that anchor chair, you're the quarterback in a West Coast offense. You're dinking and dunking your analysts down the field throughout the pregame and throughout the postgame. And that's you have to learn your analysts. And I work with a lot of them in studio. And Sarah Kustok as well. She's in studio a couple of times. But you learn everybody's like pop culture reference, history, their idiosyncrasies.
So you've learned
You
Richard
know what?
Jefferson's immense
Oh
vast
God!
library that he has.
Do you know, Alex, how many people when Richard and we don't do enough. I think we only have like 2 or 3 shows together this year. But every time we do a show, the next day, like clockwork, you guys should have a show together. This is when you do shows, it's amazing because we play off each other so well. He's a little bit younger than I am, so we get the same kind of pop culture references. And I got to tell you, I miss Donnie Marshall because he was another guy. He was exactly my age, so I knew like any old school rap that I would put into a highlight, anything that I would throw out there pop culture wise. Donnie would just look at me, give me that wry smile, and give me something right back. But Richard does the same thing. You just, going back to what I was saying in a roundabout way, you learn everybody, the ins and outs of everybody, what buttons you could press. You don't do it over the top, and it's exactly what you said. Like the last time Spinarkle and I were in studio, we were trying to one-up each other on Hornets puns. And that just came organically. It's not like we sat there in the pregame production meeting and said, oh, we got to come up with puns. That just happened live on the air. And we had a 7-game series, quote unquote, and he beat me 4-3, and that's how we ended the postgame. It was just so organic. It was throughout the pre, half, and post, and it was just something we had fun with. And that's the common denominator with everybody, Alex. It's just, look, this isn't brain surgery. It's not life and death. It's basketball. And we have fun, and it's great.
So with you guys and your chemistry in the studio and on the floor calling the games, we're going to now transition over to the team that you cover, the Brooklyn Nets. And right now, their chemistry is unbelievable. What do they have? 11 out of 13, 11 out of 12 that they have rattled off since Kyrie has been injured. And
9 of 12.
9 of 12. I'm getting ahead of myself because I want it to be 11 of 12. But they rattled it off, and this chemistry is great. Spencer Dinwiddie is really etching closer to being considered a legitimate star if he's not already there in the NBA. If he's not, I don't know what makes a star, but I don't want to be a homer as a Nets fan and say he is, so I'm going to leave that up to the people. What concerns me... Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead. Sorry. No. Go ahead. I'll wait. Go ahead.
Just what concerns me with what's going on right now is we brought in Kyrie Irving. We brought in Kevin Durant. Kyrie Irving is playing this year, and he's going to come back. Karis LeVert was considered the second best player on the team for God knows how long now. He's going to come back from injury eventually. This is Spencer Dinwiddie's team. Even when Kyrie and Karis come back, this is going to be Spencer Dinwiddie's team. Are the Nets going to continue to have that chemistry? What are those growing pains going to be like that you see?
Well, let me get one thing perfectly clear here. This is Kyrie Irving's team. Let's put that out there right now. It's Spencer Dinwiddie's team now. He is leasing with the option to buy. And the only way he can buy is if Kyrie doesn't play the rest of the season. This is Kyrie's team. I just wanted to throw that out there. As far as chemistry goes, though, let me break it down first with Spencer. I'll go Spencer first, then I'll talk a little bit about the chemistry and how it is now and how it could be when Kyrie and Karis come back.
Sure.
Here's the thing with Spencer. December 8th, 2016, just over 3 years ago, Dinwiddie was, I don't want to say toiling. He was in the G League, which was the D League at the time, but it's now the G League now. He's with the Windy City Bulls, and the Nets, Sean Marks, Kenny Atkinson grabbed him out of there. And listen, Anthony Puccio does a great job for Nets Daily.
Yes,
he had a conversation with Dinwiddie back in 2017. And it was before his first ever start with the Nets, and it was against the Cavaliers with LeBron James. And Spencer commented, and this was a tweet that Pooch put out there not too long ago. Spencer said, I never really thought I was a D-League or G-League player. Those were just my circumstances at the time. That's a guy who knows what he's worth, who knows where he should be, and it's exactly why he got his 3-year deal. He took, less money than he would have gotten maybe on the market after playing the way he's played. But he knew he had something here with his coaching staff, with his teammates. He might have known the future with Kyrie and KD coming. Who knows what all the players knew?
He's
and
friendly
you'll never
with Kyrie,
get that
so.
out of these guys. Oh, yeah, they're boys. So
yeah.
He might have known. He might have seen the forest through the trees and known what the deal was. So he wasn't going to go anywhere and miss the opportunity to play with Kyrie Irving.
No shot.
But I'll tell you flat out right now, Spencer Dinwiddie, everybody's tiptoeing around him being an all-star. They're saying maybe Spencer Dinwiddie, breaking news, he's an all-star.
Oh, yeah.
He's playing like an absolute NBA all-star right now. Let's go to the chemistry now. You're seeing this team run the pick and roll and have Dinwiddie, if he's not, I'm going to use Clyde here, if he's not dishing, he's dishing. The Nets had 35 assists in their last game. I mean, the assists just keep ascending. 35 assists on, I think it was 42 made field goals. That's ridiculous. That's one of the things Spinarkle and I brought up immediately. So the chemistry right now is great. What I think the problem is, and we've talked about this behind the scenes, I think the problem is guys like Jarrett Allen, who's in his third year, and when Kyrie's on the floor, you saw Kyrie yell at Joe Harris saying, you got to make that three. You got to think if Jarrett Allen isn't in the right space, Kyrie's going to let him hear it. We saw Kyrie throw John and Musa into position live on the air one night. There has to be a sense of playing a little bit walking on eggshells when Kyrie on the floor. And that's to be expected because, you look at everybody's debating about Spencer Dinwiddie being an all-star, Alex. Kyrie Irving is he's on another planet.
He's
dude.
a superstar. He's an absolute superstar.
He's in another stratosphere, right?
Yeah.
And Kevin Durant as well. So that's what people have to understand. Dinwiddie's a great player, but he's not in Kyrie Irving's stratosphere. He could be one day if he keeps projecting the way he's going. But the chemistry has to be – you're right. You're absolutely right. When Kyrie and Karras come back, it isn't going to be a finger snap and everything is going to be hunky-dory. The team right now is locked and loaded with everything they have, with all the pieces they have. However, getting Kyrie and Karras back isn't a detriment. It's going to make this team better. It's going to make it exponentially better. They're just going to have that 5 to 10 games where they do come back and everybody's healthy, where they're going to have to find, all right, Spencer's going back to the sixth man. We're getting a lot of run right now out of Garrett Temple, who is the consummate pro, by the way.
He's replaced Garrett Dudley as the consummate pro on the team that everybody looks up to and is basically the dad. He's become the dad.
He's a glue guy. He's a glue guy in the locker room. It's his 10th year. It's his 9th team in his 10th year. Mm-hmm. Hey, Garrett, we need you to hit threes. Okay, coach. Hey, Garrett, we need you to play D. Okay, coach. Hey, Garrett, we need you to be a distributor. Okay, coach. He knows his role. He's the perfect guy in this locker room. If the Nets were making a casserole, if the team was a casserole, the Nets would have the top casserole on Food Network right now because they know exactly what to put in the locker room. They knew exactly how these guys would play off each other. Kyrie and KD are just on another planet, like I said. But the rest of these guys in the locker room, they're like puzzle pieces. They all fit together. I'm just hungry. That's why I brought up casserole. I should have said puzzle.
That, you bring up a good point with their talent, and their talent is going to trump all in the end. My only final concern that I'll address with you and maybe let you debunk is we've seen Kenny Atkinson be very willing to bench the starters when need be to send a message.
We've talked about this too.
Is there any benching
exactly
Kyrie and Kevin Durant when they're slumping? Are you going to be able to bench them? Does that exist?
See, that remains to be seen. We saw last year
that's Kenny's style.
Kenny would sit D'Angelo Russell. We wouldn't see D'Angelo Russell in fourth quarters, and then transversely, we didn't see Spencer Dinwiddie in fourth quarters, and that was this season. Then we didn't see Karis LeVert in quarters early this season.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see if the team does, especially now with the way things are going with Spencer. And you can't say, well, they didn't play anybody. They just beat the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
They took Miami. They should have beat Miami. They were up by 7 or 8 with 1:45 left. They blew that game, but they beat the Celtics. I don't want to hear it was the day after Thanksgiving and it was a 12. They beat them. It's a win. They're playing decent, solid teams, and they're winning these games. If you followed this team from New Jersey, I was here. Yeah, I've been here since 02-03, since the second appearance in the finals. Yep. So I've been through it all. I've been through the very pinnacle, through 2009 where they won 12 games, and the slow build-up back, which has been like Rolling Thunder at Great Adventure in New Jersey. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the old wooden roller coaster.
I'm right,
but it's just
I grew up right near Jackson.
Up and down.
I grew up right near Jackson, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I used to go to Six Flags all the time.
I'm a Jersey guy too, so there you go. So anyway, I just think if you've been with them since the Jersey days and you've been through all those emotions, to see what this team is right now and what could be when, dare I say, Kevin Durant gets completely healthy. And listen, there's just really quick, and I know you want to move to other things, but KD, they're not rushing this guy back. The Nets team doctor is the guy that performed the surgery on him.
Mm-hmm. He'll
come back, and we've heard Kyrie Irving speak very eloquently on this matter about the Warriors rushing him back out there, and he ruptures his Achilles, and here we are, through free agency into a tornado, a twister of where the heck is everybody going to land, and now they're in Brooklyn. And everybody wants to poo-poo the culture. You can't. The culture is real.
Yep.
It is. If you're in that locker room, if you're around this team, if you're on the plane, I'm not as much as Grady is, as much as Sarah is, but I'm there every once in a while. But you talk to Grady, and you talk to Sarah, and you talk to Ian, and you talk to Ryan. They're there all the time. Richard Jefferson, this is real. The culture is real. The development of players is real. They took Dinwiddie out of the G or D League. They drafted Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen. These are two players that the Nets have developed. What have the Knicks developed in the last decade?
And this is why you are a great sports anchor. You did the transition for me.
Oh, my God. Well, listen, I got to be completely honest with everybody out there. And I've done this on my podcast, which is And We're Off. This isn't a secret. Everybody knows I grew up a New York Knicks fan.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows.
Yep.
So to struggle with that team for as many years as I have, I mean, you're talking their finals appearance in 1999 where they lost in 5 to the – they were never going to beat the Spurs that year. Never.
Nope.
Never.
No shot.
And then 2016, Melo has the run, the Knicks tape, hashtag Knicks tape on Twitter, and they get to the second round. They lose to Indiana. Donnie Walsh goes bye-bye, and here we are in this awful state of affairs, not only with the New York Knicks, but with football as well, for crying out loud. I mean,
We'll
this
get to
is an
football.
awful time. I know, but this is an awful time to be alive. If you're like, unless you're a Nets fan, you have some hope if you're a Net fan or an Islander fan for that matter. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But no, this is why you're great at what you do. And I find that it's always funny when I have people that host on the show, they are very good at doing the transitions for me, and I'm not mad about that. But so overall, the Knicks, like you said, they're a debacle. It was interesting to see Michael Rappaport repping Brooklyn stuff after talking so much trash about Brooklyn. But overall, they fired Fizdale, which I personally think is the wrong move. I like Fizdale. I thought he was a good coach.
See, but Alex, the whole point of bringing this guy in was to get free agents. Like, he was the key. That was what they said. That's what the front office said. He's here to help bring in these free agents. They signed 4 power forwards.
But yeah, Chris, is that really on Fizdale, or is that on Perry and Mills not doing a great job and Dolan existing?
That's not. No, that's not on Fizdale. I am not. This is not a. What's the word I'm looking for? I am not trying to lead David Fizdale out to the firing squad. I have nothing but love for Fizdale. Okay. However, and he was given a team this year by Mills and Perry that is not reaping any benefits,
and I'll tell you, Chris, when you look at the team makeup of the Knicks, I talked to some of my friends who are Knicks fans, and they're like, you can't tell me this is the least talented roster in the league. And I'm like, no, it is not the least talented roster, but there is no fit to that team. There was no way there was ever going to be chemistry there. It wasn't possible.
All right, listen, you might have an issue with drafting Ntilikina, but Phil Jackson drafted Ntilikina, and there's another thing. They let him run the draft, and then they get rid of him.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's just like the Jets. Like, I never thought my basketball team would be both the Mets and the Jets combined. You know, you always hear that's the Metsiest thing or that's the Jetsiest thing. Well, now it's the Knicksiest thing. But it all comes down to it. Look, I'm not going to mention any names, but I hear things from different people, not just who you might think, but from people that you have no clue who they are, but they're close to the situation. It does boil down to who's in that building, whether Knicks fans want to believe it or not, and keep shelling out the money to sit in that. You want to make a statement. Stop buying the tickets to a 4-win basketball team. You're part of the problem.
I can't agree with you more, Chris, because the thing is, too, I do another podcast with my brother under the Sports Opinions umbrella named Cuesta Dos, and I said this exact same thing yesterday. Knicks fans are part of the problem. When you're selling out a building for an awful team, why is Dolan going to sell the team ever? If you are constantly going, I'm going to raise the prices because you're going to come see this terrible product.
Listen, if these people are shelling out, and I look from time to time, and I'm not spending that money to go see a 4-win basketball team.
No.
And even in the 400 level, we're talking, 200 for two. I'm not dropping $2
That's
to
insane.
See a 4-win basketball team. You want to hit them where it hurts. Stop buying tickets. Stop buying tickets. You have TVs. If you're shelling out all this money to go to the Garden, I can guarantee you have a wonderful high-definition television in your house with your bathroom right behind you, a tap full of water, or you could go to the store and get whatever beverage you want and sit and watch this awful basketball team filled with some pretty good talent, as you said. But, Alex, enough already. The fans are part of the problem. They have
Chris,
to stop.
Look
at what the Mets fans did. Look at what the Mets – they don't go.
But it's also the Kool-Aid that Knicks fans have been served. And you grew up a Knicks fan, so you probably were served the Kool-Aid. And now that you're a part of the Nets culture, you probably see the Kool-Aid they still drink. Between the media and between all the people saying, Knicks fans, they're so knowledgeable. They know so much. And they're at the Mecca. And they know this. And then you sit there and you talk to some of them, and it's like, yeah, you don't know any more basketball than anybody else, and you support a terrible team. How knowledgeable can you be to go to these games?
Frankie Ice said it perfectly. The Nets are selling you growth. The Knicks are selling you hope.
And the worst
They
part
sell
is,
you.
the worst
There
part
is
is,
no hope.
there isn't.
There is no.
I love the little bit of Stephen A. you got coming out right now. It's fantastic. But the worst part about all of this is, Chris, is that the Knicks had a golden opportunity if they could have just been patient, because they are where the Nets were a few years ago. Some young talent that you want to see grow with a bunch of journeyman veteran.
Right. But
With
you
a bunch
could
of journeyman
develop
veteran
him.
that are going to come in and out, and you're just going to build around the group. Mitchell Robinson, R.J. Barrett, Frank Ntilikina, Kevin Knox. They have some young talent.
But you have to develop these guys. You know,
And
that's
they're
the
not.
one. But that's the one thing I didn't understand with Fizdale. I don't know who's like Knox sits on his rear end sometimes. He doesn't play.
Yep.
How is he going to get better if he doesn't play? Ntilikina didn't play in the first couple games. How the hell are you developing guys if you're not playing the guys? I have to see John and Musa, and I sit there and I say to him, "Oh my God, get the buzzer, get him out of the game, get him out, get him out."
And I love Zon and Musa and Theo Pinson, and there are times where I'm like, why are they on the floor? What are they doing?
I know they're
and I love those guys.
and I know they have no choice. But having said what I just said, Kenny is at least seeing what these guys can do in big situations. The Knicks don't do that.
It's embarrassing.
I'm just fed up. I'm sorry. I'm getting agitated.
No, Chris, it's okay.
Your podcast right now this is the first time I felt alive about sports I'm being completely serious.
Awesome.
And I don't mean to take it back to my dad passing, but I've really had nothing in the tank since November 17th when he passed, and coming on here. And I knew this was going to be the perfect remedy for me to come on and just get back to doing things I know he would want me to do them. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for inviting me on to come on and do this with you.
Chris, I'm happy to provide it. You're always welcome on the show, man.
Thank you, bud.
And, and we're going to, now that unfortunately, people are going to listen to this and go, even though you told them you're Knicks fans, you're a Knicks fan growing up, they're going to go, that's two Nets homers talking about the Knicks. We're going to disregard what they have to say. And that's
well, there
true.
you go.
That's what the fans are going to say.
I bleed orange and blue, unfortunately. However, I wouldn't be telling you the exact truth if I told you the Nets are very hard to root against because of the caliber of human being they have on that team, and human beings they have on that team, and the caliber of the coaching staff. These guys, it just feels inclusive. You feel like you're part of the extended family. And I'm sorry if Knicks are listening to this and they hear me say I root for the Nets. I do. It never happened when I was in high school. It never happened up until I started working here. Yes, but you get to know these guys. You know them on a personal level. You know how everything works inside and out. And you see how they treat people. I'm sorry. I root for the Nets. I grew up a Knicks fan, but I root for this team because there's no way you could root against them.
And I'm happy to hear, and we're glad to have you on our side. You're allowed to like both New York teams, everybody, just so you know. In every sport, you're allowed to like all the New York teams. If you're from the area, it's okay to be a big fan of one, but root for the other.
Alex, everybody knows when you're in high school and you're in study hall and your best friend is a Jet fan, you hope they lose every stinking game. And my best friend
I'm a Jets fan. Will you stop it?
My best friend from South River, New Jersey, Tita, he's a year older than me. We're actually the same age. He was a grade ahead of me. He's a huge Jet fan. Back then, I would laugh in his face every weekend, the Joe Walton days, the Rich Kotite days, that the Jets would just spit the bit and lose on a weekly basis. The Bruce Coslett days. I can't forget old Brucey. But now he's 46, like me. We're not getting any younger. I want my friend to see a championship. And he's a Met fan, too. And I know this is crazy, growing up a Yankee fan, but in 2015, I rooted for the Mets against the Royals. Oh, yeah. I wanted my friend to see a championship because he hasn't seen one since 1986. Because I'm not in study hall in high school anymore. I am a grown-ass man.
Now,
This is transformation.
Let me tell you, the Mets, I rooted for them too, and then I listened to the fan, and then I listened to my Mets fans' friends, and I stopped rooting for them because they're all crazy. But one thing I have to say about the Mets right now is you were talking about a team trending in the right direction. Yes, they were abysmal last year. But I'm telling you right now, Brodie Van Wagenen is a good GM who's not afraid to make moves. And the Wilpons agreeing to sell the team in principle, 80% of it, to Stephen Cohen, who is, I believe, a hedge fund managing billionaire, who's aggressive and apparently doesn't like to lose and will probably give Brodie the green light to go out and spend like a drunken sailor. I think that this Mets team could have a good future. As long as they give Brodie the green light to do his job as a GM.
Here's the problem with that statement, okay? You got guys. No, I think you're right. The future's there, but how long are we talking? How long before Cohen's money gets in there? Is it going to be 5 years when Jake DeGrom is 34, 35 years of age? Or 36? I forget how old he is, 30 or 31 or 29. I can't remember.
So, he's 31, I think, something like that, 30 or 38.
Yeah, so he's going to be 36 in 5 years. Syndergaard, we don't know what Syndergaard – I mean, they tried to dump this guy last year at the trading deadline. He had a down year last year. He was up and down.
Lifting.
Again, he's got to live up to the Thor nickname, I guess. So you're looking at a Mets rotation that just lost Zach Wheeler, and you don't know what Steven Matz is too. Good year, bad year. Who knows? He gets hurt. They all need to stay healthy, and you need to see what those top three can do. And I saw that they just brought in Waka too.
Well, Wheeler's gone. Wheeler's a part of the Phillies now.
Yeah, Zach Wheeler's gone.
Yeah,
that's what I said.
Yeah.
Waka just signed with the Mets.
And he can be good. Waka has ability.
He does. He was hurt a lot last year.
Mm-hmm.
Evan Roberts made a great point. Good signing. You got to stay on the field. And I agree with that.
Absolutely.
And it is positive. And to accept the Mets GM job, not knowing that the Wilpons were going to sell, I mean, the size of the stones on Van Wagenen for accepting that job, they're immense. They are. So I don't know if he's crazy. I don't know if he has this long-term plan, but you've got to get your you-know-what together when Jake is still Jake. You know what I mean? The Mets have to strike while the Jake is hot.
They do, but one thing you do see is they have Alonso, they have McNeil, they have Rosario, they have guys that are hitting.
Yeah.
And if Cespedes comes back and is healthy and looks at this team and goes, okay, I can play for them because they're not awful. It's not me only.
And if Edwin Diaz remembers how to close, I don't know what the hell happened to him last year.
Chris, he's a 22-year-old kid. That's what happened. He had a down year, and he's still one of the best closers in all of sports. Even bad Edwin Diaz was good Edwin Diaz.
Think about that. If he bounces back and gives you the year he has in Seattle where he had 54 saves the previous year, I mean, you're looking at they could contend in the NL East, and I say that confidently before free agency isn't even done yet.
And Chris,
it would be nice.
It's interesting. Last year with the deal with Robbie Cano and Edwin Diaz, everyone made a big deal about Robbie Cano. The whole deal was about Edwin Diaz. He was the best closer in baseball for 2 seasons,
of course.
And everyone missed the point that the money was just getting eaten on Robbie Cano. He had nothing to do with it, really. He was just a throw-in. And so you cannot give up on Edwin Diaz if you're the Mets.
No, absolutely not. And that's another positive. So, yeah, while I do believe they could have a bright future, they need to get that Cohen money in there sooner rather than later to have that happen.
Without a doubt. Now, speaking of a team that has a bright future but absolutely scares the hell out of me, I'm a Yankees fan like you. The Yankees just signed Gerrit Cole to an absolutely ridiculous deal. What was it, 9 years, $324, averages out to about $37 million a year. He's
36.
36.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous deal, but it's the one they had to make because if Cashman doesn't make this deal yet, and if Cole goes on to have a Cy Young year and the Yankees go in and have no ace in the playoffs again, he would gotten torched. So we had to make this deal. One of the things that I look at it now, and a few of my buddies pointed out, is when you add Cole to the top of this rotation, that's a really good rotation now. How do they rank up against some of the best rotations in the league when you're seeing Cole, Severino, Paxton, Tanaka, and then Herman if he ever comes out, whoever comes out there?
Well, don't count on Herman coming back.
No, he shouldn't either, honestly. I'm okay with making that stance.
Yeah. Jack Curry just Wednesday on our Hot Stove show said that the Yankees will go out there with the best rotation in baseball, arguably the best rotation in baseball.
Crazy
and I happen
to think about.
Agree. I agree. I happen to agree with Jack, but I have some points. I believe Gerrit Cole, there's going to be a domino effect. Now, this is only if these guys stay healthy, okay? But hear me out. You're going to have some time on the IL, for some of these guys. But let's just say for the first 2 months of the season, knock on wood, all of these guys are healthy. What you do by bringing in Gerrit Cole, and by the way, let me put away the money thing immediately. There's 3 words that all your fans that listen to this podcast that raise their eyebrow about the amount of money and the amount of years. 3 words. It's the market. End of story. Strasburg got $35 million over 7 years. This was the next step. He has the same agent, Scott Boras, both of those guys. Boras, as my wife said before I left the house, said he's going to be in bed throwing money up in the air and just showering himself with it. Pretty much is the case. But what you do when you bring a guy like Gerrit Cole in is this. He's 29 years of age. He was actually the 28th overall pick in the 2008 by the Yankees.
Yep.
However, his father wanted him to honor his commitment to UCLA, which his father has a PhD, and there's a story about them sitting down and mapping out, all right, this is what guys who right out of high school when they go, this is what they make, and this is how their career paths go. And this is how guys who go to college, and then this is how their career paths go, and this is how much money they make. So he plotted that out for Gerrit, and they made an informed decision, which is the smart thing to do if you have the means to do it. And that's exactly what he did. So the Yankees took a gamble. He went to UCLA. Then he gets drafted by the Pirates in 2011. And he gets traded to the Astros. And here we are. But putting him at the top of the rotation, picture, and I'm going back to these cooking references. What is wrong with me, Alex?
You're hungry, Chris. It's okay. You're allowed to be hungry.
Picture a pressure cooker, okay, or a crock pot. When you're cooking something for 8 hours and take the top off of it after 4 or 5 hours, the amount of steam and pressure that's released is immense, okay, on either one of those devices. By bringing Cole in, that's what you're doing for this Yankees rotation. Luis Severino doesn't have to be the guy anymore. He's the guy. He's like Mikey in Swingers. He's the guy behind the guy behind the guy.
Yes.
Okay. It's Cole. It's Severino. It's Tanaka. It's Paxton. Not in that order. I mean, it's probably going to be the top 3. I mean, if we're looking at Masahiro Tanaka as a 4. I mean, that's a ridiculous rotation.
What's nice, Chris, is we can wait for Tanaka we can wait for playoff Tanaka to come. We can let him go through the growing pains of the regular season, which he goes through every single year, and we can wait for playoff Tanaka.
What he does, though. See, I always say this on my podcast, but for your listeners who might not know the podcast, I think Tanaka uses the entire season. He's like a scientist with his pitching. He fidgets with his splitter. He fidgets with his slider until he gets it perfect. And he uses the 6 months of the season to be playoff Tanaka. And that's the guy we have seen every time the Yankees have made the postseason. But now he even has in the back of his head, all right, I don't have to worry if I give up 1 or 2 runs in the first or second inning, because if I even lose this game, we've got Gerrit coming back. We've got that stopper. CC Sabathia was that stopper in 2009. And he was for the most of his Yankee career. He was up until like 2 or 3 years ago. He had an unbelievable record coming after a Yankee loss. I think he worked it up to 17-0 before he lost.
It was insane.
In like 25 starts. Don't quote me on those numbers, but it's somewhere around those numbers. But Cole takes a lot of the pressure away from Paxton, away from Severino, and then Cole goes out there every fifth day. He's your seventh inning guy, and sometimes he's your eighth inning guy because he's throwing 100 in the seventh and eighth inning. Bullpenning is not going to win you a World Series. It is not. I don't care about your sabermetrics, your FIP, your analytics. The top of the rotation guy like Cole, that's the guy that puts you over the top. His spin rate and everything else, fine. I didn't know anything about spin rate when Roger Clemens and David Cohn and El Duque and all those guys were banging, and Andy Pettitte and David Wells, and they were winning World Series. We didn't know any of that stuff. We just knew that they were solid starters, and they got to an unbelievable bullpen with the best closer, the GOAT, which is the only time that freaking word should be used in any situation, is with Mariano Rivera, okay? Or Michael Jordan.
Or Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky, too.
Or Wayne Gretzky. All right, we got a couple. So thank you for correcting me on that. But GOAT, I think of Mo. But I don't want to hear about analytics if the Yankees win a World Series. Yeah, they're probably still going to use it a ton. They have a department that has 25 people strong. So, yeah, they're going to use it. But I am going to jump out of my skin. If Gerrit Cole is in the seventh inning and still dealing, and he comes out because he's at 90 pitches.
No, Chris, you can't face a rotation. You can't face a lineup a third time in.
Oh, please.
You can't do it, Chris. You can't. Please. Not allowed anymore.
Please stop. Nolan Ryan is spinning in his grave. The freaking guy isn't even dead yet.
Tom Seaver is doing the same, and, Tom is still kicking. God. It's insane to think about.
Yeah, I don't want to see that happen. But here's the thing. Cole, they're going to see him go deep into games. It's going to be – if you have any competitive juice in your body, you'll see that. You'll see Cole go 7 and give up, I don't know, a run or two and 3 or 4 hits. And if I'm Severino and I'm taking the ball next, I'm going to say, all right, I see you. And I'm going to go out there. I'm going to try to match it. Every time it's going to build these guys up. And you know what that's going to do, Alex? It's going to make the bullpen better.
Without a doubt.
We heard Zach Britton after the Yankees got bounced by the Astros in Game 6. That's why we're relievers. If you use us this much, chances are we're gonna get got. And they did. Chad Green, 3-run bomb in the first inning. Ball game right there. It's not like the Astros were hitting fiends. They just got the big hits at the big time. Maybe a garbage can had something to do with that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, or a little whistling that AJ Hinch made fun of him for, but I digress on that. But yeah. So, it's nice to hear you passionate about a team that's going to win a lot. Let's see if we can bring that passion. You already talked a little bit about the NFL before, talking about how.
Do we have to talk about the Giants?
Now, we're not going to talk about the Giants or Jets really individually because we can talk about them collectively because they're collectively a dumpster fire. But we're going to stick to the positives. We're going to stick to the positives, Chris. Both teams have young quarterbacks that I think are promising. Yes, Daniel Jones is hurt and we're not seeing him play for the Giants. But I saw some things. I was a Daniel Jones doubter. I did not like him at Duke. I thought
I was too.
He was an issue. But I'm seeing him play in the NFL level, and the kid can play. And then we have Sam Darnold, who drives me nuts sometimes. I say we see USC Sam every once in a while when he throws terrible interceptions. But then I have to bring myself back and remember he's a young kid. So what do you think of both guys so far? In Daniel Jones in his first season, Darnold in his second season?
Look, I think Daniel Jones, if you take away the fumbles, look, I could deal with interceptions. I could deal with losing 8 straight. This Giants defense is absolutely It's probably one of the worst defenses in my 46 years of life that I've ever seen with this football team. And I saw LT in the 86 defense and the 90 defense and the Super Bowl defenses in the 2000s that beat the Patriots. I mean, those were defenses. I mean, the ones in the 2000s lacked in the corner area, but they had the NASCAR package and they were sprinting past offensive linemen and destroying Tom Brady in 2 games. Yeah, exactly. So you get what I mean. But if you take away if Jones can get rid of the fumbling, I think he's going to be fine. His arm strength is not a concern with me. His accuracy isn't a concern with me. I've seen games where, it was raining and he had some issues against the Cardinals. Okay, fine. Growing pains. It's just growing pains with him. But I have done an about face, and because the things that Gelman was saying when they drafted him, I went to the Senior Bowl. Dude, the Senior Bowl? Really? No one plays in that game. They play like 3 plays. And see that, and plus he's from Duke, and he wore 17, and I just had all these flashbacks to Dave Brown. And I was waking up with Colts, and maybe that's unfair to Dave Brown, but
Dave
I don't
Brown
think it
wasted
is.
the best years of Chris Callaway's life. I swear to God, Chris Callaway could have been a Hall of Famer if Dave Brown wasn't his quarterback predominantly.
Cab Calloway. Chris Berman used to call him Cab Calloway.
He was so talented. He was a freak athlete.
Yeah, he was. He was. And, yep, he didn't have a quarterback to get him the ball. So I think Daniel Jones, it's going to be fun to watch him progress. It's going to be fun to see Saquon be healthy and actually play again next season. I think he's still dealing with that ankle.
Without
he just
a doubt.
doesn't look right. And of course, the person he is, he's not going to say anything, and the team isn't going to say anything until after the season, if they even do that. Because if you know Saquon, he's probably like, don't even say anything.
Saquon's an absolute soldier. He's an absolute soldier. He just, give me my orders. Yes, sir. No, sir. Okay, I'm going to do it. That's it.
Yeah, I'll come back next year through people and toss the ball to the ref and say, I'm no good. I'm done. What's that? So I have no. I'm excited because they need a piece on the offensive line, but they need Chase Young and they need to build this defense up with all the money they have coming with the cap.
So who's going to be coaching the Giants next year?
I don't know. I don't know.
Riverboat Ron Rivera. Jason Garrett.
I think
Lincoln Riley.
No, I think you have to throw some money at Matt Rule and try to get him out of Baylor. He's
I don't know.
a Giants
Lincoln Riley
guy.
could come out of Oklahoma, and that's another good quarterback guy.
Yeah, he could too, but there's some rumors about him with the Cowboys, so I don't know. But they got to strike while the iron is hot. And Shermer, to me, I don't know. I wanted to like him. I really did, but the guy's a dud.
He's a coordinator. He's not a head coach. He's a coordinator.
Right. That's it.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there absolutely isn't anything wrong with that. So you nailed it. You hit it on the head. And I think Todd Bowles is a tremendous defensive coordinator. I just don't think he's a head coach.
And Rex Ryan and Eric Mangini. And there's a list of coordinators that are great, but they're not head coaches.
List that just didn't pan out. Right. And who knows if McAdoo will get another shot, but that whole thing, I don't know. Let me get to Darnold because you asked me about both.
Yep.
I think the jury's still out on Sam too because the guy hasn't had a full season where he's been able to go out there and play and have all of his pieces around him. So until that happens,
how the hell are you a grown man and how do you get mono as a grown man?
I don't.
As a grown man,
I think people have their issues with gays, and just when he announced that at his press conference, and he just said 14 has mono. I mean, you felt that. You really
know what, though? Here's the thing. I'm Adam Gase. I'm coming into this Jets team. I have a young quarterback I believe in. I'm going to work with him. It's going to be fun. I'm going to erase my nonsense in Miami. And then I like Sam, but this idiot kid goes and gets mono. And I have to go up there in the press conference and tell everyone that my franchise quarterback has mono.
How you just broke that down is basically how he probably said it to his assistants.
I get it.
with some choice expletives that were involved in that too, and you left them out, which is great. But yeah, I get it too. But listen, I think, and I could be nuts for saying this, and Carl Banks, I love Carl because he tells the truth. He's not one of these guys who, I wore blue, so I'm going to
No,
protect.
Carl's not a homer.
No, he tells you, like, if you listen to him and Papa, and I do when I'm on the road, obviously, both of them, and I give Bob a lot of props too, they will tell the truth. They've got that cred with the Giants where if it's bad, they're going to say it. And I respect that, man. You got to be honest. You can't sugarcoat things. People aren't blind. We could see. It's not like we're Stevie Wonder with a Braille television. We could see.
I like that.
We know this defense is bad. We know it's horrific. We know that they had a 17-3 lead and they blew it. And let me just say this, okay? Because now you're getting the angst of my Giants fandom coming out. And I went to school down in South Jersey, which was about 10 miles away from Philadelphia. So I have a lot of Philadelphia Eagle fan friends. The Giants are 4-19 in their last 23 games against the Eagles. 4-19.
That's not even a rivalry.
And they lost 6 straight. And James Smythe, who works for the Yes Network, he's one of our researchers and statisticians, does a great job. He tweeted something. The Eagles win. Put them in front in the head-to-head for the first time in the history of the matchup.
That's bad.
That's what happens when you go 4-19, Alex.
Wow.
It's just, there was a guy, I forget who it was. I think it was Chris McGonigal on FAN. He does the Maggie and Bart show.
Mm-hmm.
And they were asking him about the Giants, and he had the best breakdown ever. He said, it used to ruin my Mondays, and now I'm to the point where it ruins 3 hours on Sunday, but by the time dinner rolls around, I'm good. And Mondays are fine.
That's the way I am with the Jets now.
Yeah. You just have to let it roll off your shoulder. But for Giant fans out there, the last 3 weeks, the misery ends by 4:15 the latest. And you can get on with the rest of your Sunday and enjoy your Sunday night.
I do have to say,
your dinner
Chris, I have to
gagging
say,
it back up.
The Jets in the Cincinnati game, my fury when I was a young fan and when these games meant the world to me, I couldn't control it, Chris. You can ask my wife. I was sitting there, my daughter, not 2 years old yet, was seeing her dad have a nervous breakdown over something that absolutely has no bearing on him. And I've gotten better. I don't do that anymore. But that game, I'm watching it, and I knew it. I knew the Jets were going to screw me. I knew that they were going to blame it. I've said it was a trap game, and then all of a sudden I'm watching it, and I'm in disbelief just how inept they were in that game. And
we gotta hang, like face to face, and we just gotta have some adult beverages and commiserate on our teams. I'm being completely serious, because I have 2 daughters too, and when you brought up your daughter, when you have a kid, not for everybody, and it's fine. I'm not going to judge anybody by how they root for their teams. Mm-hmm. You root however the heck you want to root. It's your life. But for me, it changed. Like when I talked about earlier about my friends and the teams they root for and how I want them to see a championship. You know how many cousins of mine? I have a lot of cousins from my Italian side.
I hear that.
They didn't believe in birth control. So anyway, there's a lot of cousins. There's a lot of cousins who are Jet fans. I would love, like my Uncle Mickey just passed too, and he was a huge Jet fan. He was also a Yankee fan, so he did have some joy in his life. But I would have loved to have seen the Jets win another Super Bowl before he passed on. And they didn't. And his son, David, huge Jet fan. My cousin Johnny, huge Jet fan. And my best friend Mike, huge Jet fan. And you are. And now for you, I just want you all to experience that joy. There's no more joy for me in rooting against and seeing my friends suffer. This is just me speaking. Maybe I'm rational, but when I had kids, you put things into perspective. And when you're in the locker room and when you see losses and when you see guys, not everybody, but when you see some guys just shrug their shoulders, well, on to the next one. What the hell am I using like Xanax for to go to sleep because they just lost when they're walking out of the locker room? Like, I don't care.
And Chris, one thing I have to say has changed since just, getting married and just become, having more responsibility is, I got to say, thank God for smartphones and thank God for our technology, because I don't have as many sports as I want to anymore because I got things to do. I'm not that type of guy where I sit there, and I know there's certain guys, and if this is you and you have that with your family, awesome. Sundays are for football for certain people. For me, if we have something planned, Sundays are not for football. Sundays are for me to go do things with my family. And if I can watch football that day, I'm pumped about it. And I will love to watch my Jets. But I can't.
My grandmother, God rest her soul, she used to have like a Sunday Italian. It was like lunch, but lunch would last throughout dinner because she made so much food. And what she usually made was spaghetti, meatball, ravioli, all the trimmings, salad.
Dinner was at 2:30 at Nonna's on Sundays.
Bingo, bango. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I'm Italian too. I got that in me.
There you go. So Sundays, I'm trying to do with my family up here where I am in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to institute what my grandmother used to do. And I have her meatball recipe. I make homemade bread. I'm a Renaissance man, Alex.
Chris, I do a lot of stuff. We're alike. I bring my family sauce to my family. Like, I make it with the, the ragu and all that.
We bottle it every year.
Yeah.
We bottle it every year.
That's awesome.
This was the first year we didn't do it because my dad was really sick and we just never had the time. But we're going to do it again next year. My brother, my older brother, already confirmed it with me, so I can't wait for that. It'll be nice. It'll be cathartic to just get out there in the driveway and start doing it. But, yeah, man, I'm there with you. Sundays, for me, I try to keep an eye on it. I'm not maniacal the way I used to be. Baseball's a different story. Baseball, I'm in front of the TV with my guitar, and I'm going at it with my guitar, and I'm watching the games.
That's basketball for me. That's the Nets, and right now, not watching them is killing me. But
well, I'm in the Yes parking lot, and I just saw Spinarkle walk by, so it's about to be halftime.
There you go. So before we give the wrap up here, I want you to give me one word, and I know this is difficult, especially for a host. One word. Which franchise has the harder rebuild right now, Jets or Giants?
Giants.
All right. We're going to leave it at that, and we're going to let people wonder so they can bug you on Twitter why you said that. Haha. But
please don't bug me on
Twitter. With that, that's going to end this episode of the Sports Opinions podcast. It was my absolute pleasure to have you on, Chris.
Alex, an hour felt like 5 minutes, dude. We got to do this again soon.
Without a doubt. Again, that was Yes Network's Chris Shearn. You can find him pre-halftime, post-game on, I want to say, 95% of the Brooklyn Nets games. And listen to his podcast. Chris, talk about your podcast real quick. Tell people where they can find you.
It's called And We're Off. It's wherever you download your podcast. You can get it on Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, places like that. Just search for And We're Off. And the logo has the Yes logo on it, and it's pinstriped. You can't miss it. And on Twitter, you could find me at Chris Shearn Yes. And on the Instagram, I'm Shearny17, which is my nickname and number in baseball. I still play baseball up here in Connecticut, much to my wife's chagrin, by the way.
I wished I could. I have a torn meniscus. I can't run. I ran track in college. I haven't ran in over a year because I haven't taken care of my meniscus. So there's that.
I had shoulder surgery, and I just had my elbow done. I'm still playing. She is not happy.
But again, I'm Alex Cuesta, the host of Sports Opinions Podcast. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at @A_Cuesta30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30. Instagram Sports Opinions 30. Search for us on Facebook. Visit us there. And get this podcast anywhere where you can find a podcast. And if you're listening, Give me a nice ranking, a nice review. Push us up higher so more people can hear my fantastic guests that I have, like Chris. So once again, I want to thank everybody for listening. Everybody, have a good one.